Hey everyone! So I wanted to make a video about how to draw this goldfish, and it's part of my ebook and video tutorial about how to draw sea creatures. And in this video I wanted to show this one because it really explains the basics of how to use shapes to draw a character.
So let's start with drawing the body. That is the main shape of this fish. And fishes are great to start practicing drawing with because their shapes are quite easy. It also makes it hard because if you make a small mistake, you right away you see it because there's not much detail in it. So when there's one thing off, you can notice that right away. So I think I want to have these eyes a little bigger. So here. So it's okay that the other eye is actually a little bit smaller because that it's more in the distance. So perspective-wise, it should be a little bit smaller. So here, let's add this fin here in these secondary shapes. So here with this ball, and I didn't show it, it's basically this line going around the shape here. So this is the middle. And these eyes are more on the side. So a line like this can help with getting that idea. So that's basically like, I can draw that here. So when drawing a ball, then when you can draw here these guides, then you can know the direction of the ball and you can draw top of it. And when I'm adding shapes, I really try to think how these shapes are going around this object, this ball. So we have this top fin, and let's start adding in this fin at the back. Let's make it really big. So first start adding these bigger shapes. Later we can start dividing them more. So here, let's add this small fin here. Like this here, and let's add this one here. This mouth. So we can add these eyebrows. Like this here. This here. So now we've made this. So now we have those basic shapes. And you can see here, there's some, here this overlaps, and this is behind. The same here, behind, overlap, and that creates depth. So now we have this, and we can start drawing in the rest. So let's move this image a bit up. Actually, we can make this one now a little bit bigger. And let's erase this a little bit and let's draw on top of it. So why I actually would advise, when you're starting out learning how to draw, I would actually really encourage people to start drawing on paper because you can zoom in, you can't use undo or redo. And the tools are much easier. So when you're drawing on paper, you're actually really focusing a lot on those principles of drawing. You learn a lot from that. So here, and just sketching on top of it. So when you're making a mistake, you can always change it, even when you're drawing on paper. So here, I actually here drew some, if you can look really closely, you see these perspective guides. And for example, here, the shape, you can see this, here, this one, you can see it goes around that body. So it's just not flat on top. And that's why also, actually, I would recommend people to play around with clay and play your characters. So you learn how things in 3D work. Here, drawing in this eyelid at the bottom, like this here. Then this shape here. And don't feel bad when you're sketching really rough. I think I actually sketch a little bit too clean, but I would recommend people, especially in this stage, to really be rough. And try to draw from your shoulder, not too much from your wrist. And that's also some things I need to think of when I'm drawing. But you also see me doing a lot. I start with this big shape, and then once I have the big shape, I start adding in secondary shapes inside them. But I start with those big shapes to get an overall feeling, and you will see me doing that a lot in the next tutorials. So now we sketch this, and we can actually, let's add some more details before we're going to ink this this character. Here, adding some details. Doesn't have to be perfect yet, but when I'm going to ink, I want to know what I'm going to draw. So when I'm inking, I don't have to think too much about that. Here. Start adding these eyes, work out these eyes a little bit more. This one is really looking too much up. So let's make them more like this so that it looks better. Fish still can, it's okay if the fish looks a little bit derpy. I think that would be funny. So here, and then here we have these spots. Yeah, let's quickly draw these lines. I'll make them later more okay. So now we've made the sketch of the fish. And if yours is looking way rougher, that is fine, that's no problem. Let's turn this sketch really light. Put line on top and use an ink brush. Here, this one again. And let's start inking the character. So here, it's not simply a straight line, there's a little curve into it, and it gives these lines also a bit more appealing. When you shoot out a little bit, you can just erase it. When you're working on paper with an ink, then of course you can do that, but so you need to be a little bit more careful. But again, you learn so much from inking on paper. And after some mistakes, you will also learn to not make them less, actually. So people sometimes think they are in disadvantage when they don't have a fancy computer or a fancy tablet like I'm using to draw on. But actually, really a lot of great artists draw a lot on paper. So here, and this eyelid, or the eyelashes basically. Of course, fishes don't have eyelids, but I think it helps to give them a little bit more character. Pupil, the iris. This. Here, this other eyelid. Behind that eye. This goes here. We can make this pupil. And I don't play around too much with different line weights, but overall, when I do, I try to give the most important lines like this outer line, a slight thicker line, the mouth, and yeah, the things that are important for the emotions and expressions and the body language. Here, this mouth is going to be dark inside, so there will be a lot of contrast already. So here, let's add this here and this chin. Let's now add this texture. You can also make this brush smaller or just press really softly. So here, now let's add this fin. Nice S curve. Here's a C curve. So I always try to use some contrast in the types of lines I'm using. Always the things don't look too repetitive. So here also with these lines, make them not too parallel. Play around a little bit. Don't make things look too repetitive or it doesn't look organic. So here look at this. This is another S shape, basically an S line. Here as well. Let's add this here. And the shape here. And a line going down here. Oh, don't have to redo the whole line. Just this piece. Like this. And oh, no. 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 So sometimes it can take really a lot of redos. So here, and let's add this line here for the steel. These things a little bit wavy for the elegance of the goldfish. Here. And let's add these lines. So here. And then line here. Line here. And then a line from here. So, okay, so I think we're done. We can turn off this layer and we can start adding in the colors. So here, make a selection. So this layer is going to be beneath, so we only have to think about the overall shape. So later we're going to add all these other parts on top of it. So here, pressing Alt when I'm using this lasso tool. So, oh, fill it with this orange. Here, eyelids, let's add here as well. Let's do those eyes. Like this here, fill this with color. And then this eye here. Let's fit this. And let's do those fins and tails. And what I would recommend you to do is, practice these kinds of characters from me or other artists, and with a lot of tutorials to show the step by step. So use those step by step, so you learn how to use those steps. And after you've done that a lot of times, you can apply to create your own characters. But especially in the beginning, and that's also how I learned to draw, I would really recommend to practice those. Study people, the art that you admire, and try to learn from it, and try to suck up how they do these kinds of things. And that's also how I did it. And of course, sometimes you want to draw your own character, and that's fine, but also keep practicing this. See it a bit like doing fitness or anything. Here I actually did it with my favorite cartoons. So I made screenshots, and then I just started studying those screenshots, looking at books about how to draw. So here this eye. Here I want to give these eyes a different color because they stand out, because everything is almost yellowish and orange. So I think that's called a monochromatic color scheme. And those work really fine. And you can add another color in it to create an extra strong contrast. So here, this tongue, I don't know if this works. Let's make it. Yeah, this works a little bit better. And we can also add some a little bit of shading. I think that's also fun. So here I take a soft brush, here the paint airbrush or the paint. Let's take this one. It's a little bit bigger, and the light is coming from the top right corner. So here you can also see I'm changing the hue a little bit, and also the saturation and the brightness. So saturation is how strong a color is, and the brightness is how basically how black or white a color is. So here, these highlights is here, and sometimes I also use selection tool to make a selection of a part I want to shade, like this here. And then just shade it like this here. And here. Here. Shade this here. And shade these eyes. I want to avoid gray. Always, yeah, I think this looks too gray. Let's make it, just use a little bit of blackness. Making this lighter, this part, turning this icon on. When you turn this icon on, you can paint within those shapes. You also have that in Procreate. It's called different, but it is there. So I want to add those highlights in the eyes. This here. And let's go back to the body. So I control click to select where I want to continue. So let's make this darker. And let's give those fins a little bit of a shade. So let's make this one a little bit darker, like this here. And now we can maybe this blocking brush, let's take a different brush. So I click selection of these fins, so control click on that thumbnail. And here, and there are a lot of ways to do this. This is of course not that, I think it looks too brown, but we're going to solve that in a bit. Just add these kinds of things here. Change that in a second. Here, smaller one, and here. So I try to make this, the pattern is not too even. Here, first let's start making this a little bit lighter. Take the erase brush and let's make this erase brush a little bit soft, and simply erase it at some parts, like this here. And then we can take this head, take this brush, and let's add some glowy parts, light parts here to create some extra depth. This part. Here. Maybe on the nose a little bit extra, like this. And then we've made this fish.
So that is how I draw a goldfish. So it's part of my video and ebook tutorial about how to draw sea creatures. You can find that in the links below or on this video. So I hope you like it. So leave a like, follow me, or leave a comment and tell me what kind of video you want to see next time. Thanks!